G'day, guys, and welcome to Raging Rhino. With the release of the third episode of The Acolyte, it seems that a lot of Star Wars fans are now starting to reject Disney Star Wars. They've certainly rejected The Acolyte for what it is. We're 3 episodes in. After the first 2 episodes, it was sitting around like 26, 28%, something like that, over on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is currently where the score sits. We're sitting at a pathetic 15%. Now, that's after the third episode, and I think we can all see how disastrous this show is. It's not just disastrous on the fact that the story is really bad, the writing's really bad, it looks really bad. There are some scenes that don't look too bad, I guess, but overall, it's pretty shocking. But then, of course, you've got the lore and canon and continuity of Star Wars that's being absolutely destroyed by this series, just like what The Last Jedi did. This is an absolute abomination when it comes to Star Wars. But there was something that came out today that I actually wanted to show you. So I saw this over on Twitter. Now, the reason why I've had to screenshot this from my phone is because Looper decided to delete the tweet. Now, this is a video that they released. It says, "The Acolyte is getting absolutely blasted by fans." And then it goes on to say, "Is the Disney Plus series The Acolyte an innovative take on a classic story, or does it ruin Star Wars? Here's why the brand new show is getting review bombed by angry fans." Now, this tweet, like I said, it was deleted. Post has been deleted. This was only out for a very, very short amount of time. It had one repost, one quote tweet, 2 likes, 2 bookmarks with 992 views. Now, I don't know how many people actually how many they usually get, like the views and stuff like that they usually get. But luckily for me, I was able to screenshot what they did, and I was actually able to screen record the video. So we're going to take a look and see, why would they put out a tweet like this and then within, I don't know, an hour, something like that, completely delete it in probably even less time than that, because I would assume that it would have more likes and more views and stuff if it was even out for an hour. But we're going to take a look at this. All right, here we go. I'm sorry for the way that this video is, obviously, because like I said, I had to screen record it from my phone because for some reason, after they deleted the tweet, I was still able to access it from my bookmarks. I don't know why. And I also sent it out to a few people like Gary. And it was only because Gary told me that he couldn't click on the thing, it was deleted, that I actually went back and had a look and then decided to screen record it. So let's take a look at what they had to say.
Is the Disney Plus series The Acolyte an innovative take on a classic story, or does it ruin Star Wars? Here's why the brand new show is getting review bombed by angry fans.
Now, of course, we keep hearing about this review bombing. I just want to touch on this really quickly, and it gets further into it with the amount of gaslighting that they actually do in this video. But I just want to talk about the review bombing really quickly. When The Last Jedi came out, that was one of the reasons why I started my channel. Now, I started a little bit after that. I was actually probably closer to The Rise of Skywalker when I started my channel. But I was going out there and I was looking for people that actually thought the same way that I did. Now, some people may call that an echo chamber. I actually find that there's a lot of people that have watched this show and seen how bad it's been. And then they're going out there and they're watching videos. And of course, they might not be able to articulate what's so bad about it. And then they go and watch a video like a Critical Drinker video or a Mauler video or a Gary video. And it's like, yes, that's exactly the point that I'm thinking. That's exactly what I'm thinking. So people like to call us an echo chamber, and they like to think that it's being review bombed. I think that it's just been an absolute disaster for Disney Star Wars with Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Book of Boba Fett. I'd even argue Andor's pretty bad, but that's me. And I know that there's people out there that disagree with that. The Mandalorian, season 1, season 2, and season 3. Season 3 definitely being the worst, but season 1 and 2 aren't actually good either. There's a lot of crap out there, and I think it's just now finally starting to catch up to people. So let's continue.
Prior to its early June debut, expectations were sky high for Leslie Headland's Disney Plus series The Acolyte.
Were they really that sky high, were they?
Which is set during the tail end of the High Republic era, around a century before Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace. The show follows the exploits of twin sisters May and Osha, who are on opposite sides of the Force. The first 2 episodes set up the duo.
Obviously, this is just a little bit of a recap on what the story is. He gets into all the gaslighting bullshit shortly.
Conflict and May's hatred for the Jedi. While reviews have been mostly positive, Looper critic Matthew Jackson gave the first batch of episodes an 8 out of 10 rating.
Shill.
It's a controversial episode 3 that has some Star Wars fans enraged.
Most.
Set 16 years.
Not some Star Wars fans enraged. It's got most Star Wars fans enraged. With what this does to lore canon and continuity, and then like I said, it's just shitty writing and shitty storytelling, just in general. You take this out of the Star Wars universe and it flops just as bad as it has. But when it comes to the lore canon and continuity, I'd say most Star Wars fans are absolutely appalled by what we're seeing.
Before the first 2 episodes events, Destiny shows younger May and Osha living in an all-female coven of witches, led by their mother Anastasia. The witches acknowledge the Force, but suggest that the Jedi are misusing the divine power, which they refer to as the Thread. May and Osha are set to be inducted into the Coven, but the Jedi stop the ceremony, claiming the Order has the right to train children.
What do you want? We are concerned that you are training children.
The dialogue is so
Osha
bad.
decides to go with them, leaving May furious. She starts a fire, killing the entire Coven.
Yeah, now this is the thing. Like, let's talk about this for a second. We've got rock and metal that just burns like a forest. Like, is that not valid criticism for this disastrous show, this disastrous episode of television? I think that one criticism alone is pretty valid. And that's got nothing to do with the lore destruction that this episode actually does.
Where's Mama? Mama's dead.
The episode also reveals that May and Osha, like Darth Vader, don't have a father and were born through immaculate conception. The episode's narrative decisions have left many Star Wars fans upset, leading to the series being review-bombed on several platforms. Even prior to its release, some Star Wars fans were dismissive over Leslie Headland's prequel series.
I think most people were dismissive of Leslie Headland's prequel series, if that's what you want to call it, because of the way that it was promoted. What did we hear about this show as they were building up to its actual release? It's a female-centric show. Leslie Headland's got to put her queer identity into it. She's apparently a massive Star Wars fan, but she just loves all the Star Wars. She doesn't want to give a specific movie that's her favorite or anything like that. All of this has been leading up to it, and we got nothing. In all the advertising that they did, we had absolutely nothing that gave us any semblance of what this show is actually about. They just wanted to deal in, like, see it from the Sith's perspective and bullshit like that. There was nothing there. So I think the lead up to it, most fans were like, what is this? This is going to be absolute garbage. They were going into it thinking that, and they've got every right to, based on the fact that everything else that we've got out of Disney Star Wars is an absolute abomination when it comes to actual Star Wars. Anyway, let's continue. This entire video is one big gaslight, and that's why I reckon they deleted it. But there's also another reason why, because they actually call out 2 specific, really big YouTubers in this video.
Certain audience members were critical of Headland's intentions to create a diverse female-led show, which led to toxic
A diverse female-led show, which led to
discussions months before its debut. Once the Acolyte premiered, it became a victim of review bombing on platforms like Rotten Tomatoes. As of this writing, it has a 17% audience score, a huge disparity from its positive 86% critic score. Take a brief look at some of the audience reviews, and
That's because most of the critics are shills. They get the access, and they love the access. So, of course, they're going to praise the shit out of it.
Clear that certain fans are being overtly critical, slamming the show with 1-star ratings.
Hello, Osha.
When she says that, all I think of, hello, motherfucker.
May.
Hello, sister.
This large disparity between audiences and critics isn't just a Rotten Tomatoes issue. Metacritic has its Metascore at 67, signaling mostly positive reception. However, the user score is a mediocre 4.3.
But what does that tell you? What does that tell you? I mean, go back and look at some of the scores and everything for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Look at the scores for the Book of Boba Fett. The shills were out in force for those things. Look at The Mandalorian. The same people that gave those shows praise are now unified in denying the fact that this is actually good Star Wars. Even those people that praise the shit out of Disney Star Wars garbage over the last, 5 years since we've been getting all of these garbage television shows?
Once again, the audience reviews are overwhelmingly negative, with many using toxic, bigoted language to describe the series with what can be considered hatred rather than criticism.
Oh, hatred rather than criticism. I think you'd find that if you actually watch people's videos and you actually go and look at what people are writing on these platforms about it, the criticism that they're actually giving to it, a lot of it actually has nothing to do with bigoted language and bullshit like that. Yeah, it's a lesbian coven of witches that immaculately conceived two twins through a lesbian relationship. If you ask Leslie Headland if that's what she was going for, she'd probably say yes. They came out and advertised it. The interview where she says, they ask, is this the gayest Star Wars we've ever had? It feels like the gayest Star Wars we've ever had. Are they allowed to say it, but we're not? Is that how that works?
Audience members on IMDb are also mixed and negative on the series, especially when it comes to the controversial Episode 3. With over 9,600 reviews, Destiny has an abysmal 3.6 rating. Around 59% of users who reviewed the episode gave it a 1. Some audience members have issues with the show's diversity and LGBTQ+ themes.
It's because it's got LGBTQ plus themes, but that's all it's got. Its identity is its diversity and its LGBTQ plus themes. It's not about the story. You can have LGBT characters in there if you really want to cast some LGBTQ people. If it was written well, I'm sure it wouldn't be being quote unquote review bombed. This is ridiculous. The fact that they admit that it's got this diversity and this LGBTQ plus themes tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it, Looper? Pathetic.
And those should be dismissed. However, viewers should genuinely examine the legitimate criticisms the Acolyte has received. Cultural critics like The Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic have dubbed the show lore-breaking for its recent revelations, but their commentary isn't productive. Rather, it encourages bigotry and hatred over a show that's just getting started.
Oh, sorry, Gary. Sorry, Critical Drinker. Your criticisms of the show encourages hatred and bigotry. Are you kidding me? Have you watched their videos? Have you watched their videos? Have you watched their streams? Have you seen them talk about it? I don't think it's bigoted to tell you what they're actually seeing and how this show's being promoted. I don't think it's hatred to say that I hate this thing because they hate this thing. And again, you've got the entire audience, the entire Star Wars audience, the majority. The only ones that do like it are the pronoun people on Twitter and the shippers and the LGBTQ community. Why? Because that's the themes that are in it. That's this show's identity, not Star Wars. What a joke.
As always, rage bait and review bombings distract from actual criticism. In particular, Episode 3 has proven to be controversial, and perhaps rightfully so, as it makes major potential changes to the Star Wars canon. The series says that May and Osha were conceived without a father, in a similar way to Anakin Skywalker.
It's actually not a similar way because they were actually conceived, and these people, these witches, have the power to actually make people, create life using the Force. Wait till you see what he says next. This person doesn't know Star Wars.
I created them. And what happens if the Jedi discover how you created them?
This could be considered sacrilegious, as Anakin was deemed the chosen one, with his birth being an unexpected miracle. If other Force users can be conceived in a similar way, it does diminish Anakin's importance to the larger Star Wars lore.
Oh, is that bigotry to say that it does destroy some of the lore? Interesting how you're allowed to say that, but we're not.
Then again, this is episode 3 of an 8-episode series, meaning there's plenty of time to expand upon this. It's possible that May and Osha's conception ties into Darth Plagueis.
Oh, so Darth Plagueis learnt it from these witches, hey? Well, this is where the next statement, and I'll wait for him to say that, and then I'll say what I'm going to say.
Who had the power to create life. Also, the idea of Osha and May having two parents of the same gender isn't really that big of a deal, considering Star Wars once implied that Anakin was the son of two Sith fathers.
Oh, Anakin was the son of two Sith fathers. So it was both Plagueis and Palpatine that created Anakin. I think you'll find that in original lore, It was Plagueis that tried to create life. He manipulated the midichlorians and he manipulated the Force, and he was using this dark side of the Force to try and create life. Failed, and because of those manipulations, the Force was the thing that created Anakin. But then also, too, in Disney's canon, it's actually Palpatine and his weird, creepy ways that actually created Anakin. So they've already twisted that anyway. But he's got two fathers. This is full-on headcanon justification bullshit that you're hearing right now.
Seeing as the Coven of Witches are able to create life, it'll be interesting to see if the series shows the Sith taking advantage of this power. For now, audiences will just have to wait and see how May and Osha's saga unravels, and if the Acolyte does end up actually being lore-breaking.
Well, I think you don't need to watch any more of this show to already determine that this show is actually lore-breaking. You don't need that anymore. We've got what we need to know that it's lore-breaking. It's just what more damage can they do? How much more damage can they actually do? That's what it actually comes down to. But I saw this video, like I said, and it got taken down almost immediately. Why? Was it because he happened to mention Gary and Critical Drinker? Was that what it was? Didn't want them to see it because he's calling them out for encouraging bigotry and hatred? Was it because he's just so wrong in everything that he was saying there about Anakin being conceived by the Force and a lot of this other stuff? Could it be because the fans are so, they hate this stuff so much that they thought that maybe they shouldn't put it out? Maybe the criticisms are actually legitimate? Why? Why would you post this for half an hour and then delete it? But that's the video. That's the video. So Gary, Nerdrotic, and Critical Drinker, the review bombing is effectively your fault. And it's not because the fans have seen this for what it is. Starting to also see that Dave Filoni isn't their savior, which thank God for that. People can't defend this show anymore. People can't defend Star Wars anymore. It is an absolute joke. But anyway, I needed to share that with you because, like I said, they posted it and they deleted it very, very quickly. They didn't want people to see this video, and there it is in all its glory, gaslighting all of you. And there's one more thing, and I was just thinking about this, and I just want to put it at the tail end of this video. I actually think that they're going to remove Plagueis from the whole thing in regards to Plagueis being Palpatine's master. Because I don't think, if I can remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but in the Revenge of the Sith, does Sidious or Palpatine actually mention that Palpatine was his particular master? Or could it be that Plagueis was, I don't know, 500 years down the track and was somebody else's master and he was manipulating the midichlorians back then? And he just happened to use that story to manipulate Anakin. Because he does say in that first conversation at the opera that Darth Plagueis the Wise was killed by his apprentice, but he doesn't specifically tell him that he was his apprentice in that moment. The only other time that I can think, and I don't think he does, but the only other time that I can think is after Anakin does turn. Does he say that he was his apprentice during those conversations in Palpatine's office? Anyway, that's what I think they're going to do. But also, too, they said that they wanted this series to revolve around the Sith and see the POV from the Sith's perspective. And I don't think we're going to see any Sith in this. They're going to tease the idea that Smilo Ren is a Sith, but it'll just be one of the witches. It'll be one of the witch mothers, and we'll get the I am your mother moment or something like that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about this video in the comments below. Are you review bombing it, or do you just really don't like what they're doing with Star Wars and with this show and the lore breaking that this show does, that's why you're giving it the score that you're giving it, whether it be on Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or any of those others? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Later, guys.